Before we do anything this evening, I want to acknowledge yesterday's tragedy. Our hearts are very heavy as we observe a moment of silence for the victims and the families of the Tuscarawas High School Marching Band. As I think you probably all know, they were involved in a truly unimaginable fatal accident on their way to perform at the Ohio School Boards Association Capitol Conference yesterday. Would you please join me in a quiet moment for their entire community? Thank you very much. Without objection, I'm going to entertain a motion to appoint Amy as our treasurer pro tem in the absence of our treasurer.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Amy be appointed treasurer pro tem. Actually, we don't have anybody to call the roll, but I will, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All, without objection, all opposed, no. Amy has now been appointed treasurer pro tem. Amy, would you like to assign your duties to somebody else?
Yes, thank you. I would like to delegate the treasurer duties to Brian.
Okay, our very, very skilled and wonderful assistant treasurer, but this was all pursuant to state law that we cannot, he can't be treasurer pro tem, but he is allowed to accept the duty. So now, the designee of our treasurer pro tem, Mr. Cottrell, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best,
Present.
Mrs. Davis,
Present.
Mrs. Hudson, Mrs. Lloyd,
Present.
Mr. Wilson.
Here. Okay, at this time, I would like to take a minute to express a heartfelt tribute to Elaine Hottenroth. And frankly, in my opinion, this is a moment of celebration, not a moment of tragedy or grief. But last Monday, November the 6th, Worthington lost a true legend. Elaine Hottenroth was a longtime teacher, an activities director, and she died on November 6th. She was initially hired in 1961, and during her 30 years in Worthington, she served as an English teacher, a theater teacher, and as an activities director. Elaine was instrumental in promoting the arts and the planning of 3 different auditoriums. As a consequence, the Thomas Worthington High School Performing Arts Center is now named the Hottenroth Center for the Performing Arts. In case you were wondering who it was named after, she did retire more than 30 years ago, so some people aren't aware of that. But and she also was named while she was at then Worthington High School. This was before there were 2 high schools. She was named to the Worthington High School Hall of Fame. Elaine certainly had an enormous impact on hundreds of students during her time in Worthington. As I said, she retired in 1991, but she was part of a very long tradition that continues to this very day in Worthington of trusted adults caring for each and every student. I believe I only met her once in the late 80s, and my kids were very, very young, but I could remember she was a force of nature, and all I could think of, I can't think of a better person. I kind of knew her age at the time even, so I knew this wasn't going to happen, but I couldn't think of a better person to have teaching or interacting with my kids when they got to high school. But at this time, I'd just like for us to remember Elaine as a trusted adult caring for our students. Okay, now we'll move on to the welcome and introductions. To my far left, your far right, is Board Member Kelly Davis. Next to her is Board Member Jennifer Best. Next to me here is Assistant Treasurer Brian Cottrell. And I am Charlie Wilson. I have the honor of being the board president this year. Next to me is our superintendent, Dr. Trent Bowers. And to your far left is board member, soon-to-be city council member, Amy Lloyd. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is back here tonight. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it went out. I believe it went out far before the state law requires. I think it went out last Thursday, our regular time for it to go out. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes other than ones I made right at the beginning without objection. I don't think that was in compliance with Robert's rules, but we did it. Brian will take care of handling the difficult thing here. Anybody know of any changes? Okay. If not, Mr. Cottrell, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Lloyd,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mrs. Best,
Yes.
Okay. Lots of highs and lows tonight, or in between, but right now is, in my opinion, the ultimate high, and this will be the last time I get to do a student recognition. But I'm so excited that we're going to do this, and I believe we're going to recognize two students. There's one up here, one here, I believe. Yep. Ruby Nicole, would you please come up? Make sure I got the right. I'll come around there. Okay. So first of all, the reason for do I need a mic? Testing, is it working? Okay. All right, the reason for our recognition tonight is we are recognizing both of the National Merit Scholar semifinalists. One was not able to attend, but I am very, very pleased that Ruby Nicole, is that right? Okay, is here from Worthington Kilbourne, and the other one is Izzy Novak from Thomas Worthington. If she comes in, we'll honor her, but in any event, I'm extremely thrilled, as is the whole board, and actually I think I can speak for the whole administration. We're all thrilled this evening to recognize this accomplishment for Ruby and also Izzy. The National Merit Program is administered by the College Board. Semifinalists are the highest scoring entrants on the PSAT, which they take in the fall of their junior year. You're a senior now, but you take it the fall of your junior year in each state, and they represent less than 1% of the nation's graduating seniors. This recognition clearly highlights their potential for future success and opens doors to prestigious scholarships and educational opportunities. Semifinalists have demonstrated their commitment to education, and they are poised for a bright academic and professional future. Certainly, we here in Worthington are extremely proud of these two. Here to honor and to our two National Merit semifinalists are, first of all, your principal, Mr. Eric Thomas, and to honor Izzy as her principal, Pete Scully. Okay, here is the script we have for you. Or the certificate we have for you, I'm sorry. We have a certificate here for you. And what I would like for you to do is introduce your parents.
That's my mom and dad, Karen and Andrew Nicole.
Thank you very much. Having been a parent of two kids at one time, or I still am a parent of two kids, but yep, all the work and nervous anxiety and so forth. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for 18 years, or probably almost 18 years, doing a great job with one of our superstar students. Congratulations to you, Ruby, and I have a hunch, if the past is any indication, you'll soon be getting scholarship offers from the University of Alabama, the University of Oklahoma. I'm trying to go through the University of, University of New Mexico, University of Oklahoma, Alabama. There are about 6 or 7 schools, at least 20 some years ago, who sent out free rides to everybody who's a National Merit Scholar because they want to increase their numbers. But thank you very much. We are so proud of you, and I have no doubt that what you're going to be a tremendous asset for our entire community and society, and we are going to be so proud of you over the next, I won't be around for the next 70 years or so, but thank you very much, and thanks for coming out today. Thank you. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Yep, for all us board members, honoring our students like that's the highest thing, and I promise that's the last one I will do. I believe at the next meeting we're going to honor the field hockey team, but I will let one of my colleagues do that at the next meeting. So thank you very much. All right, at this time, do we have any public comments?
We do.
Okay, this is the time in the meeting for the board to hear from our public, and we certainly encourage and appreciate community interest in our meetings, and we do especially enjoy hearing from community members about items on our agenda and other items involving our schools. I believe our speaker has spoken before, so you know the drill, but again, as I say to all speakers, we really do want you to honor our values and refrain from using any harmful or offensive language, and to always be civil and respectful. So. on the one plan.
Thank you. As Kelly makes her way to the lectern, I just want to share, I just want to share my appreciation and our leadership's appreciation for Kelly's leadership in this process. It really does involve multiple perspectives, including our treasurer, our curriculum team, operations, and community and family partnerships. So Kelly has really ensured that we stay focused on this process, and tonight she is going to share the work of the district and some of the work of our school buildings in their continuous improvement process. So thank you. And one of the things to note that you'll see in this presentation, the Ohio Education's Department system. Please note that our Ohio Education Department is now the DEW, so Department of Education and Workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Good evening, President Wilson, Vice President Hudson's not here today, but members of the Board of Education, Mr. Cottrell and Dr. Bowers. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to give you an overview of one of the specific ways that we in Worthington schools are working together to get better. So as an engaged and supportive board, you are already aware of many of our continuous improvement processes. The Ohio's education, and I'm going to say workforce, department's system of tiered E-plans and supports, that's EdSteps. Our equity gap analysis process, which is led by Toya Spencer using an Ohio Department of Education and Workforce tool in partnership with Ohio State. The audit of our special education processes led by Kim Marani in partnership with New Solutions K-12. And of course, our portrait of a learner, led by Angie Adrian in partnership with Battelle for Kids in our community. And many of you have been active participants in that process. This evening, though, we will take a closer look at the EdSteps process. Thanks to Charlie's question during our AAPL subcommittee meeting with Charlie and Jennifer, we all know what EdSteps actually stands for. And again, it's on the screen there for you. The goal of the EdSteps process is on the screen for you as well. Essentially, it's designed by our state to streamline continuous improvement work done at the district and building level. The pillars of EdSteps are the needs assessment, the development and monitoring of an improvement plan, and the application for state and federal funding. The EdSteps planning cycle, which you see to the left there, is aligned with the cycle outlined in the Ohio improvement process. So the Ohio improvement process, and again, that's to the right on the slide, is the recommended framework that's used by our district and building leadership teams, as well as by our teacher-based teams. In EdSteps, the one needs assessment, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in just a moment, aligns with the identification of critical needs. So I'm going to try not to get the green laser in anybody's eye over there, but you can see that. And the one needs assessment and development of the one plan align with the research and selection of evidence-based strategies. So that yellow section that you can see. The one plan also encompasses planning for implementation and actual implementation. And you can see the alignment of the one funding application and monitoring tool with steps 4 and 5. In reality, we move fluidly between steps 4 and 5 in our continuous improvement processes as we implement and monitor, and then we examine, reflect, and adjust, and then we continue with implementation and monitoring. There's definitely a little bit of back and forth informed by data. So I promised you a little more information about the one needs assessment, and that is what you are looking at here. We engaged with this tool for the first time during fiscal year 2020. You know what was going on then, in preparation for fiscal year 2021. This tool replaced the decision framework, which focused only on the Ohio school report card data, although we were permitted to consider other data as we developed annual plans. As you can see, there are 8 areas, and you can see those kind of on that left down the side there, that cross all areas of the organization, as Angie referenced in her introduction. Those areas are college and career readiness, community and family engagement, curriculum, instruction and assessment, fiscal management, leadership, administration and governance, operations, professional capital, and school climate and supports. So each area or bucket, if you will, is further divided into question groups. And some of these groups of questions are required of every district, and some are required based on triggers. And I'll give a couple of examples of those later too. Not surprisingly, the biggest section of that assessment, the needs assessment, is curriculum instruction and assessment. So the outcome for each section of questions is the identification of a root cause that, if addressed, could lead to better outcomes for our students. Also, it's our plan, so the root cause has to be something within our sphere of influence. It can't be something that we say, well, we'll have parents do this, or we'll have the state do this, and it's something that we need to be able to do. Once we have identified root causes, we further identify priority needs to include in our continuous improvement plan, and that's the one plan. It's important to know that we are continuing to grow in many areas, but that our one plan is focused on 3 primary goals. A benefit of this process, this newer process, is a 3-year plan, which is different from the 1-year plans that were required of us before. So we have more time to develop a robust plan and then to really work that plan. So I'm sharing this information with you this evening, and we started really this process back at the end of September with Charlie and Jennifer because of a new assurance issued during fiscal year 2023 that we were told about in June, requiring our Board of Education to approve our one plan. And so Charlie has asked me this question a couple of times. We had to turn our plan in by April 30th, which we did. It was approved on June 30th. And so when I checked with our consultant and said, hey, what about that approval process? She assured me that at some point in the late summer, fall, that would be sufficient. So I said, okay. So I hope this slide right here supports everyone's understanding of our funding sources. As you can see, the overwhelming majority of the work we do is supported by the general fund. While I realize 1.2% of total budgeted expenditures seems minuscule, that does represent a little more than $4 million. So it is significant to us, although a small percentage. Nonetheless, as you look and you have in front of you a little bit more detailed summary of those goals in the plan that's actually loaded online with the state, you'll likely notice that action steps within each of our goals are supported by multiple funds, including the general fund. So you are looking at a summary of the one plan that is easier to read and understand than what is available currently within the EdStep system. But what you can see is that our 3 overall goals fall into the categories from the one needs question groups of attendance, curriculum, and safe and healthy schools. If you're wondering about the 0, again, I'm going to be careful not to get anybody at that top there, that just indicates that we have no revisions of the plan yet, although we anticipate over the life of the plan that we will revise as we continue to learn and grow and recognize the need for additional action steps or perhaps move forward and realize that we have passed an action step. We are currently working on our year 1 action steps. So for attendance, we are seeking to reduce the number of students who are chronically absent. Attendance questions were triggered for us. So remember I mentioned that there are some questions that are triggered because our 2021-2022 data, and that is the data that when we do the needs assessment, we're always a year back and then planning for the next year. So just to give you a sense of that, revealed that 18.3% of our students were chronically absent, which was up significantly from what I'll say is our last normal year, 2018 to 2019, when it was 8%. That was true across the state, really across the country, right? That we know and we recognize obviously the impact of COVID and other factors in that. Our second goal is from the big bucket that I mentioned earlier, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. As you're aware, we're continuing to grow and formalize our MTSS processes in reading, executive function, and math in our elementary and middle schools. We also recognize, and if you look at that second bullet area there, the importance of pouring into our newest teachers who face the real expectation to perform in a manner commensurate with their more experienced colleagues. And you'll note an emphasis on family and student partnerships, not only within this goal, but within the other 2 as well. Our final goal is already yielding some important results, a decrease in the disproportionality of special education indicators, including discipline. And that is from an early report that Kim received just a couple of weeks ago. So we are pleased to see that there is some shift in that as well. So I could talk about all of this for a really long time, but I'd rather hear from you. As members of the Board of Education, what do you want us, and that really is nearly everyone that you see up front here that is engaged in the work at some level, what do you want from us as we lead this really important continuous improvement process? And I'll take questions.
Amy? Or Jennifer or Kelly?
If you want to start,
Okay.
So thank you for the presentation. I know when Charlie and I met with the AAPLT, we could have sat there all afternoon and talked about this. There's just so many parts to it, so we appreciate it. As far as a member of the board, I think we would like some updates on this as you go, not, more than once a year. And then I'll say at the OSBA conference, I did some really, really good sessions, one on absenteeism, and I sent the information to Angie, and then I did one yesterday on family engagement for at-risk kindergartners. It really wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but it was fascinating, the family engagement that they have with the at-risk kindergartners. So I'm going to talk to Angie about that one too.
Thank you.
Because there's a lot of districts out there doing this kind of work, and there's some intriguing ideas. So
Yes.
try to share what I learned this week.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's it for me.
Don't both of you go at the same time, please?
well, I mean, I agree with what Jennifer said in terms of, I think, having updates for the board periodically, whether that's here at a board meeting or through some type of written document, or perhaps Dr. Bauer's miscellaneous items that he sends out about where you are with all of this. I will just say because you mentioned the chronic absenteeism, I was in a session yesterday that was talking a lot about wraparound services, and they were actually talking, and I can share this information in these slides as well, a district that, is really utilizing coaches and things to check in with families. It was really interesting. So anyways, I can share that as well. So
Kind of sounds similar to what I was hearing too.
yeah, and
when
I can't
was
remember
at-
what the term is that they used for those individuals that provided that for their district, but it was a really interesting way to connect with families. So anyways, but I'm happy to share that. So I will just say thank you for the presentation, and I certainly will reach out. I feel like I need a little more time, unlike Charlie and Jennifer haven't had a chance to take a look at all of this as much as they have. And so if I have questions, I'll certainly reach out to you. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kelly?
I don't have a ton to add, except for I also, we're all coming off the conference. And so I went to a presentation that talked about utilizing like everyone within the district.
Yeah.
So you're talking about coaches and, our guidance counselors, and just having that common language so that everyone is on board with this one plan. So, and I guess I just don't have a lot of doubts that you're going to pull people in. But one thing that they emphasized in this presentation was just raising up other leaders. And so I know you have your building team leaders and your teacher leaders. And so like really empowering them to take the lead in some of this too, which I'm sure you already have planned, and just updates so that would be helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, first of all, thank you for an excellent presentation or presentations in the case of us that are involved in the curriculum committee. You're asking us what we want you to remember as you all lead this continuous improvement process, and this relates to something you said that's just been referred to. First of all, the chronic absenteeism. Now, is that defined by the state, or is that a federal definition of what constitutes chronic absenteeism?
That is defined by our state, and it is 10% or more of the days in the student days missed. And as I know you know too, it's not right now, the law is that it doesn't matter if those days are excused or not, that those days count toward, chronic absenteeism. One of our big takeaways, and you'll see it in the board goal updates that I'm sure Trent will share in the next couple of weeks, that just 2 days a month can put somebody on track to being chronically absent. And so that right there has been a huge takeaway that our buildings are taking action on.
Right, and as you pointed out, they qualify as chronic absence even if they were undergoing some kind of serious medical procedure,
That's correct.
or even though we were providing them with instruction, but they just weren't here. So that's a state definition, and Senator Brenner, chair of the Senate Education Committee, was talking about yesterday, again at the same conference, about the chronic absentee rate in this state approaching 50% last year, I believe he said statewide. And again, it gets into your definition of what constitutes, and that definition becomes very, very critical in that sense. So now getting to what you want from us, it kind of feeds into this a little bit, which is that I don't want you all, and I don't think you will, but what I want is that you don't forget to treat each and every student as an individual student, not trying to pigeonhole them into something that makes the numbers look a little better or something like that, or even ignoring students because, well, they're never absent and they're always proficient and everything else, but we still want to challenge them. So I guess what I want you all to remember is, again, this is a state and federal requirement, but I just hope we never lose track that we're not here to create numbers or to fit into slots or anything like that, but to make sure we're maximizing the potential of each and every student, however they might fit in the, in our Ed Step 1 plan continuous improvement process. So that I have no doubt that you will, but I just think it's important that we repeat that, and that the public hear it as well, that we're here about helping every child.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlie.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bowers.
Well, first, Kelly, thank you. I'll just add to the board. So in the goals that we set as a Board of Education superintendent leadership team, which are available under the superintendent tab on the website if anybody's interested in those goals, each of these parts of the one plan are separate goals in different areas. So you'll see as a board updates from our leaders, our cabinet leaders on their progress so far. You'll get that probably right after Thanksgiving from me as a separate update just on our kind of trimester progress towards those end of year goals. It's a ton of information, right? So you'll have to decide which ones you really dig into and don't. But our progress towards chronic absenteeism, family engagement, MTSS, and primary reading, all those are separate goals on that piece. So you'll see updates on those in that update. So.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much. All right, now we're ready for reports and announcements. So we'll start with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. So our mission in Worthington Schools is to empower a community of learners who will change the world. You can see as we dig into that one report, the work that's going on in curriculum and instruction and academic achievement, that our students will change the world. So we're excited about that. We have 4 vision statements. Our first vision statements will engage each student with diverse opportunities to maximize every student's potential. Last Saturday was Veterans Day in the United States. Throughout the week, each of our schools honored our veterans with assemblies and student learning opportunities. Really throughout all of last week, I think our communications department did an excellent job of documenting that through pictures. But I was very proud of the efforts of our teachers and our students to do so, and we're thankful for the service of our veterans. So that was a really excellent week in Worthington. The second vision statements will provide a safe environment where every student can grow intellectually, emotionally, socially, and physically. We continue to engage school counselors at both the elementary and secondary levels to develop a comprehensive school counseling model for Worthington schools. So a framework was last developed in 2011. And since that time, the district has dedicated significant resources and staffing that supports the mental health and well-being of our students. So this includes the addition of 11 mental health specialists, full-time counselors at the elementary level, the addition of 2 board-certified behavior analysts, and a partnership with Directions for Youth and Families. So our commitment this year, again, one of our board goals, is to review and update the Worthington Schools counseling program from kindergarten through 12th grade. We want that to reflect our dedication to nurturing the well-being and growth of every child. Our goal is to provide communication and support to students at each grade level, providing them with the tools they need to be successful academically, socially, emotionally in school and after graduation. And we appreciate the progress that's going on and the work that's being done by our school counselors and their leaders this year. The third vision statement is we will provide consistent communication and promote dialogue with our community. From a consistent communication standpoint, our November newsletter is hitting mailboxes of all district residents this week. We received ours at our house on Monday, so families should check their mail for this newsletter, or they can find the digital version of the newsletter on the front page of our district website. Second, from a dialogue standpoint, we're hosting another community coffee this Friday morning here at the Worthington Education Center, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Toya Spencer will join us this Friday morning to discuss DEI, but we'll talk about anything, so we'd love for anyone in the community to stop by and talk Worthington schools this Friday morning. And then our fourth vision statements will be responsible and transparent with our community resources. Several years ago, the Board of Education allocated roughly $250,000 each year for playground equipment replacement. Over the past few years, equipment's been replaced at Colonial Hills, Brookside, Worthington Estates, Wilson Hill, Evening Street, and Slate Hill. This summer, Liberty Elementary is slated for a full equipment replacement. So the Liberty Leopards will be on new equipment this time next year. Nice. So we just want to put that on the community's radar that Liberty is on deck for that playground equipment. They're currently working with our team on the design and the ordering of that equipment. So, Dr. Wilson, with that, that's my report.
Thank you very much. Excellent. And at this time, Mr. Cottrell, do you have a treasurer's report?
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. First off, congratulations to our newly elected board members. Our office looks forward to working alongside you and providing you any and all financial information you may need to be successful during your term. It's that time of year again for our annual open enrollment season to elect medical benefits for our next calendar year. I'd like to personally thank Beth Hohenstein, our compensation and benefits supervisor, as it's no small task for our organization of over 1,500 employees. She successfully completed the month-long process last week and did a phenomenal job answering questions and walking our employees through the process. So thank you, Beth. Legislatively, we haven't seen any notification that the Senate will be taking up House Bill 187, which alters the reappraisal process and was passed by the House. This week at the Alliance Luncheon, Senator Brennan indicated that an alternative proposal aimed more at expanding the homestead exemption for seniors than other eligible homeowners is the Senate's preferred path. We will keep you informed if something gets scheduled. There has been some media attention surrounding STRS also advocating for an increase to employer contribution rate. No bill has been formally introduced. One was introduced last year, but it did not move forward. And lastly, the monthly financial report for November was published last week, and it shows that state revenue and interest income was higher than projected, which will be reflected in our revised forecast that will be presented to the board at the next meeting. And lastly, our medical insurance claims in that report had another good month. And that's all I have.
That might be all you have, but thanks for the great news. It's always good to hear revenues are up and expenses are down. That's what we always want to hear. So thank you very much, Brian. Okay, now for board member reports and announcements. Who wants to start?
I can go.
Okay,
Well, it's been 3.5 weeks,
right?
We've all got a long list.
and I was like, oh, the community coffee. Yeah, I went to that too. So I'll try to be as brief as possible, though. But there has been a lot that has happened during that time period. During the week of October 23rd, I went to 2 feedback sessions. Thanks for Jennifer for filling in for me for one of them, and then anyway, so then I was able to attend 2 other ones, one at Thomas and one at Kilbourne. So there were some consistent themes throughout each session. There was vaping was brought up a lot, so vaping concerns from each school was brought up. Vaping in the bathrooms, or vaping in the bathrooms, or being falsely accused of vaping in the bathroom, and so being nervous to go into the bathroom thinking the alarm will go off. But both sets of students talked highly of the security monitors that are in the schools, and just think that they really have a positive impact on the community and the culture within each school. There are some that, they very much relate to. And so as a student that has a dear relationship with one of our security monitors, that was really good to hear. And so overall, you just want to know that our students are connected in our schools, whether it be through an activity or a sport or a teacher or a counselor, but that they have someone to go to. So I will say that overall, our students feel connected to here in the district. And so that was good, I think, for our administrators to hear. And that it's not, as Charlie, talks about each student, it's not always the counselor. It's not always the coach. It could be the security monitor. It could be your math teacher. And so I appreciate that all of our staff opens themselves up to our students to be safe spaces for them. So, and that just was very prevalent during those conversations. So, when I was in high school, I don't know about you all, but I would not have been as open and honest as these students are. And so I really do value that we take the time to sit down with them, and I really do value that they open up the way that they do. Randy and Toya did a great job in facilitating the conversation, but they were just very open and honest, and so it's good. And I'm excited about the next set of discussions we'll have next year. I went to Portrait of a Learner, the 3rd session for that. That process is coming along smoothly. Battelle for Kids is really helping with that. Angie and her team is doing a tremendous job. It's a heavy lift after gathering all that information, processing all the information that they're gathering from community members. So I think that process is moving along quite smoothly. Then I went to key communicators, both for internal and external. Randy gave a master's facilities phase 3 update. Oh, there's Randy. I was like, is he here? So he gave the same presentation that he gave to the board. And he's also providing to the elementary PTAs and PTOs. So he was able to talk to the external communicators and also the internal communicators and get quite a bit of feedback from those 2 sets of population. And then Don Taylor talked about the upgrade that they are going to take upon to update the district's website and also give a lot of feedback to that. He did talk about wanting to have better load times, better search capabilities, more efficient ways to find contact information, and a more robust calendar, which always sparks quite a robust conversation because everyone's expectation of what a calendar should look like is quite different. Then last week, I went to the Worthington Education Foundation as they continue to work with their facilitator and consultant to identify their purpose and what they want to do as an organization. They went over results of a staff survey, which would really just help them to identify some needs within the district. And they also gave a presentation about other ed foundations that they visited, Upper Arlington, I believe Bexley, and a couple of others, to see how they operate and to see if there are any takeaways that they would want to establish with them. I went to the evening community coffee with Trent. And again, community members that come out and give feedback, and I thought it was a very beneficial conversation. I know Jennifer was there. And so I appreciate that time and taking the time in the evening for community members that can't come during the day. And then finally, the Capitol Conference, and I won't rehash that, but I will just mention some of the sessions that I attended. I went to the session on social media and the First Amendment regarding students and what they can, well, I guess, what the district can and cannot do in response to what students do on social media on and or off campus. So that was quite interesting. I went to a school finance session on behalf of a recommendation from TJ, so I appreciated that. That just really gave me some examples to give back to TJ about how to engage our community in the budget process and just how to kind of make it relatable to people and so they can see themselves in the budget and better to understand what our process is and why we do the things that we do. I went to the Black Caucus dinner, which they had a student panel there, which was amazing. Again, students, they're so honest, they're so transparent. To Trent's point, when he's talking about counselors and what they're doing after school, there was a big discussion about counselors and reaching out and engaging with students to help them prepare for classes. Like they want to see, so this is a panel of Black students, so they want to see students that look like them in AP classes and college credit plus classes. And so just encouraging counselors to reach out to all students, right, and encourage them to take these classes so that we can have a more diverse group in those classes. And so they also talked about student peer mentorship. They talked about career-driven classes. And there was a lot of conversation about students being part of the conversation and student-driven classes. So these students, they know what they want and they're not afraid to speak up, and I appreciate that. So it was a really great panel to listen to. And then I mentioned when Kelly was giving her presentation about the presentation I went to about Hilliard and their continuous education process that they have worked on, and they also did Portrait of a Learner. So it was just interesting to hear and compare what we're doing versus what they're doing. And then I went to Cleveland Heights University Heights session, of course, about equity and what does equity look like and how it's not just black and white. That was the title of the presentation. That's all I have.
I was expecting a more thorough report. No, great job, Kelly. That was excellent. Fabulous. Thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
Okay, Kelly's got this nice typewritten, highlighted paper, and I've got scrawls on my agenda, but there has been so much going on the last 3 weeks. But first, I'll say congratulations to Amber and Stephanie. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to getting to know you and working with you during our onboarding process coming up next month, so it should be really good. Got the newsletter over the weekend, and it's great. Thank you to everyone that worked on it. Lots of good information about the district. The library, the Worthington Libraries Board met last night and selected who they're going to recommend as trustee. So our next agenda, that person will be on our agenda, and I will make sure to get to you all before that, the application and resume of the person they've selected. So that will be at our next meeting. I agree with what was said about Veterans Day at our schools, all the activities. They run, Facebook and Twitter, and I drove up 161 on Friday and went by KMS, and the whole front yard was covered with flags. And so I was really proud of all our schools and everything they did. Charlie and I met with the AAPL team on October 24th and had another absolutely amazing meeting. First thing we talked about was the science of reading and how we have a computer program that we can take the kids' test scores on reading and really pinpoint where their issues are and how we can help them. And I was pretty amazed at that discussion, and I think it would be a great presentation for the whole board to see that, because it's really good how we're going to be able to help our students to know exactly where their issues are with reading. And we talked a little bit about the profile of a learner and the OSBA presentation coming up. And we talked about the retreat that the AAPL team had, and they had a consultant in and did some work on productive conflict resolution. And it sounds like they had a really, really good day and learned a lot. So another idea maybe for our board as we look at retreats and different consultants and projects to work on. I thought it was really good what they had done. So another idea for us. I went to a student meeting at Thomas on the 24th. And I'm looking at my notes. I really think that Kelly pretty much hit on everything. You know, our students feel cared for by various teachers, custodians, hall monitors. You know, they all feel cared for and connected. They think the counselors are doing a good job with helping them with their classes and college and suggesting multiple pathways. They feel safe at school. They're glad there's plans in place, that they have a trusted adult. We talked a little bit about DEI and maybe how we could improve. And they talked about maybe more clubs and activities having to do with DEI and making sure we have the right staff in the right place for the clubs. And I think that is it on that student meeting. I was at the evening coffee that Kelly mentioned, and Trent and Vicki and Emily were here, and we had a lot of good discussion, especially about high school curriculum. So I really appreciated that, and the evening opportunity for community. And OSBA, as we said, we all went to some great sessions, but of course the best was Toya and Angie. And thank you so much for being there to talk about the DEI champions. It was really a good presentation. So thank you for that. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Jennifer, Amy.
Thank you. Well, my report will be slightly shorter, so just so everybody knows. But I do have like 6 pages of notes from the Treasurers Advisory Committee, which I will just say was a very robust discussion. That's such a great group of individuals. So I attended that meeting. I'll share just a few things. At the very beginning of the meeting, there was a comment made, it's good to see construction starting. So, and now we're well into that. So we talked about the reappraisal process that Franklin County has just gone through. We talked about, as I'm sure you all have in Finance Committee and things like that, about the impact that that's going to have on our 5-year forecast, which we'll be seeing in full at our next meeting. Is that right? So we talked about that. We talked about proposed or planned improvements to this building and what to do with our grounds maintenance facility. TJ, I think, provided some information that we had received previously about the financials of that to that group. We talked about future elementary school construction, just kind of an overview of where we were and just what needs to happen now. We talked about regional growth related to labor shortages and housing in Central Ohio. I really have a lot of notes from that meeting, so I'm trying to kind of.
All night,
It was. I don't remember what time we left, but it was a good meeting, and so I think those are most of the high points of what we talked about. Like I said, we talked about a lot of things. we had some conversation about just the prices of apartments in Worthington and the increase that is being seen because of property taxes, which was an interesting conversation. Yeah, so it was lots of things that we talked about. Yeah, so I think that's about the high points. So the other things I wanted to share is that I did, as did several of you, attend the Worthington Chamber event that was held last week for our elected officials and business leaders in the community, which was held at Boundless, which I think was a nice event. We got to take a tour of the Boundless facility, as they received about a $900,000 grant from the state of Ohio to renovate that building, and so they've got some really great spaces within it. And then I also obviously attended the OSBA conference. I was able to attend the Black Caucus dinner with Kelly on Sunday evening, and then attended several sessions. And I'm happy to share any of these if you are interested. Obviously, all the slides are available on the app, but I'm happy to share any thoughts or notes I have. I attended one on Columbus 2050, Pathways to the Future, which was actually a presentation from Toll's Career Center, talking about how they're kind of planning for all the growth and changes. They talked about the uptick in enrollment that they're seeing, which is significant, like 30% more students over the last year wanting to attend their programming, which I thought was interesting. I did attend Angie and Toya's presentation on leveraging DEI building liaisons for impact, which I thought was really well attended for an 8:30 session. So it was great, and thank you for doing that. And then I also attended a session called The Power of Partnerships, which I have a business card I was going to hand to Dr. Bowers. It was a presentation from Toledo Public Schools, and it's talked a lot about how they're leveraging different partnerships with different organizations, including like grant dollars to fund different programs. And when I made the comment earlier about wraparound services and stuff, that's what this particular individual who made the presentation, that's what their job is to do. And I thought it was really interesting. It's always good to get resources from other districts, as you all know, just to hear what other districts are doing and how they're successful in different spaces, and how I'm grateful that we were sharing at OSBA as a district. I think that's wonderful, but it's also great to learn and grow from other districts too. So I think that is all I had. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Y'all have done a good job of summarizing most of the things, that I've done as well, so I'll try not to be repetitive, but I guess I do want to start by congratulating the 2 new board members that will be coming on board January 1. I have no doubt we're in very, very good hands, and the good news is that they will certainly be better than one of the outgoing board members, and the district's in great shape. So I guess not to repeat anything, I do want to repeat just a little bit, which is the student feedback sessions are outstanding. I think our principals are doing a fabulous job of picking all sorts of students. It's not just the student council elected types or the valedictorians. It includes them, but it also includes students from the whole spectrum, and getting their feedback. And I agree with Kelly, they're a lot more honest and candid and forthcoming than I recall students being a long time ago. And their concerns include vaping, and their love and their passion for the security monitors is phenomenal. They always comment on how great those security monitors are, how nice they are, how they make them want to even come to school. So I'll try not to repeat too much here. I went to a session, I think a couple people from the district were at, but that was the session on Sunday afternoon, a 2-hour session. So I have literally 20 or 30 pages of notes by Donna Beagle on changing lives for Ohio students impacted by poverty. And again, she was there partly to push her own training, no doubt about it, and there are other people who do the training, but I do wish that we would give thought to at least checking in to what it would take to help our district become a more intentional poverty competent district. And she had she went through a lot of things. Of course, a lot of those things resonated with me for a variety of reasons. Actually, I had an opportunity afterwards to talk to her for a while. And she grew up as a migrant labor worker, but she did not move nearly as often as my family did. So there's a lot of talking about the mobility of students. But the big, actually a number of things here, but the big problem is our systems are geared to looking at everything through a middle class lens, not certainly not a poverty informed lens, certainly not a poverty a lens of poverty competence. Every system we have basically revolves around what middle class folks would do and what middle class students would do. And our system, just in general, is kind of hardwired. It's a system that we could change though, because people create systems, but it's to punish people who do not do what middle class folks do. Our system is just focused on what middle class does. And her big point was that if poverty-informed schools understand that not all their students are middle class. And the importance of making sure that all the adults in all of your buildings can look through, or first of all, have poverty competencies and can look through things through a middle class, or through a poverty lens. And she pointed out especially the receptionists at the front door, the secretaries, so that parents don't feel, if they come in, don't feel intimidated. But custodians, cafeteria workers, and certainly all teachers and administrators, principals, and so forth need that. But it was an outstanding 2-hour session without a break, and I don't think anybody left. And it was extraordinarily, and I've got my notes here, but it was extraordinarily informative and helped me realize some of the things I do as I do. That, I realize now why I look at a buffet lunch different than middle class folks do. But if you're not expecting to eat for a couple of days, a free buffet looks awfully attractive. But anyway, so that was really good. Also, then for the General Assembly, I don't know how many were able to make it about generations. We have 6 different generations of basically generational strategies. And his whole point was that because education is entirely about people, you need to understand what different people come from different generations. We're all part of a generation. And I've attended a number of generational workshops and so forth. And I thought he was very good. Actually, a number of years ago, I attended a whole 1-week workshop on how to teach law school to millennial students. And that took a whole week. And he said his workshops, I listened to him both for what was about an hour on Sunday afternoon, and then he did another hour and a half Monday morning. So I went to both of those. And he still didn't quite make it through the Gen Zers, but it was very good. So that, I guess the other one was that was truly phenomenal was the one done about DEI champions. A truly great presentation, and it was at 8:30 in the morning on the last day of the conference, and I thought it was well attended. But even more importantly, I didn't see anybody leave during the whole time, and that's really the measure. Because speaking about myself, if a session isn't going very well, I'm out of there. If I'm not getting good stuff out of it, there are a lot of other sessions around, and I'll go around cherry picking. But I didn't see anybody leave. It was truly a great job. All I can say is I got to call you out. Toya, you did a fabulous job, and I talked to several people afterwards, and everybody thought it was fabulous. So thank you very much for that. And I guess for my one announcement is tomorrow night is the last night of Portrait of a Learner. So we're in Gilbourne High School at 6 o'clock, right? 6 o'clock? Yep. Okay. So thank you very much. Anybody think of anything else? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I have FOMO, because I was not at the DEI champion presentation, but I have no doubt that it was amazing. Maybe I just had so much confidence I didn't even need to be there. But I am sorry that I missed it. I wanted to say something about, Amy, you mentioned about the slides. So I went to the presentation about the social media, and his slides were not uploaded into the app. And so what he said was then email him directly. So I'm imagining that if you see a presentation that you weren't able to make, and you don't see the slides uploaded in OSBA's app, then perhaps you can email the presenter and they'll send you that information. This gentleman was very open to being able to send that. So that was just a suggestion. I know there are always multiple places you want to be. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can look at this presentation after the fact. But if you don't see it, then maybe reach out to that presenter. That was all I was going to say.
Are you going to reach out to John Breton for his slides, or? Okay, if you get them, do you mind forwarding them to me, or?
I will,
I'll
absolutely.
Rather than repeating them, okay. Because the session on poverty didn't start till 1:30, I did the first half hour of his session and walked
It was
out of
good.
it. And it was good, but the one I went to was very good too, so yeah. All right. Anything else from anybody else? All right, well, moving on then. We're ready for treasurer's recommendation, and I believe the only recommendation tonight is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting. All right, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion, comments? Okay, if not, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the last meeting. Mr. Cottrell, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Lloyd,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mrs. Best,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes. We're now ready for the personnel consent agenda.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda. That's items F2 through F11 on your agenda. Approval of the consent agenda, F2 through F11, please.
May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Any discussion, questions, comments? If not, Mr. Cottrell, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mrs. Best,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lloyd.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we're ready for recommendations by the superintendent with respect to new business.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education accept the donations from the individuals and organizations listed in section G1 of the agenda. Acceptance of the donations in G1, please.
May I have a motion to approve the donations listed on our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the donations on our agenda. Any questions, comments, discussion? If not, Mr. Cottrell, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lloyd,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes. Motion to approve the donations passes. Dr. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the resolution confirming the impracticality of busing the enrolled student as previously declared by myself to Our Lady of Bethlehem School. So that's item G2 on your agenda, and I'm asking for approval of the resolution for this impracticality.
May I have a motion to approve the recommendation the resolution confirming the impracticality of busing one student to Our Lady of Bethlehem School?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the impracticality resolution. Any questions, discussion? As I understand, there's only one student going? Okay. And we've never had a student go before?
I can't speak to that, Charlie. We don't have a student there currently.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? If not, Mr. Cottrell, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Lloyd,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mrs. Best.
Yes.
The impractical busing resolution passes. Now we're ready for actions recommended by the Board of Education. May I have a motion to approve the all-day kindergarten monthly tuition rates set forth on our agenda, showing both the current rate and the recommended rate for next year. So for full-rate students, the amount will be the same. For free lunch students, the amount will be the same. And for reduced rate, the recommendation is that we treat them as the same as the students who get a free lunch. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the recommendation with respect to all-day kindergarten tuition. Any comments, questions? Jennifer?
I have some comments. This came up 2 weeks ago at the October 9th meeting, and I actually prefer the treasurer's plan that was on the October 9th agenda. Of course, as board members, we would all like to be able to give everything free to every student and not have to charge, but we also have to be very mindful of all of the taxpayers in the community, and I'm concerned about future tax levies and the being sensitive to everybody. I know this is a small ask. It doesn't make a dent in our budget, but it seems to me it's opening the door for other similar asks. And I just worries me about what it might do to a future tax levy if we just keep adding expenses. I know our principals do a great job of ensuring every student that really needs and really wants to go to all-day kindergarten gets there, and they work it out if needed. So I would have preferred the original plan.
I have a question. What does that mean, they work it out if needed?
So if a family really wants to go, I think they can talk with their principal, and the principal has a budget in their building, and they can work on getting the fee taken care of with their budget.
Okay.
It's like high school kids with the athletic fee. If they can't, the athletic department or the boosters will figure it out. The parents have to ask. They have to go to the principal and let them know that they are concerned.
I mean, I hear you, like, as far, obviously, as far as levy things, which is hopefully down the road, but I also know that all the kindergarten can be a burden to some families, and trying to pay that expense. I do understand opening the door. I think we're reasonable people that we would be mindful of that. But I do have concerns about people whose students, especially as we're looking at like early literacy, and we're, our students needing to be in the classroom for a longer period of time, and being able to give them the opportunity. If it doesn't, like what, the information that TJ sent to us via email, and the impact that it would have on the budget being small, that I don't think, well, I just don't see us as, just saying, okay, then just everything is free. That's just me, though, thinking about it from that perspective. But, I think one thing that we're working hard to do is to increase that early literacy time. And I think that kindergarten year is crucial. And it's getting more and more crucial just as time goes on. And so if families, a small percentage of our families need that support, I would encourage us to be able to do that if we can, with keeping in mind of, not setting a precedence, is what you're, saying. I understand that, and not opening a door for that. I get that.
I mean, I don't have anything to add. I agree with a lot of what Kelly said. I guess I am, if Jennifer, what you said is the case, that there are families that have gone to principals, I feel like in some ways, if a family doesn't know that that's an option, that concerns me. That we could have families who are in that position who want to be in that program and don't know that there may be some financial assistance there. I certainly wasn't aware of that until you brought that up, that was the case.
Yeah, and if there are elementary schools that, you're thinking about the equity of that.
Right.
There are some elementary schools that have a higher percentage of students that would need that assistance, whereas other students wouldn't, and then it's taken from that school's budget. I appreciate that, very much that principals work, with our families. That's absolutely valuable, but it's just my 2 cents, my thoughts about it.
Well, yeah, I subscribe to those views. I come at it from a different perspective, which is that, in my opinion, public education ought to be free or as low cost as possible. And the concept of charging anyone tuition to attend a public school, I find very problematic. I do, however, like the fact that the state legislature does allow us to charge, because I would rather charge instructional fees, pay-to-play fees, and so forth, rather than laying off teachers or cutting programs or cutting academic programs. So that if we do get into, or any school district gets into a financial pinch, it has approved, authorized sources of revenues that it can call upon if it wishes to do so. So, as you all know, I've always voted against all-day kindergarten. Today, I do intend all-day kindergarten tuition. I strongly support all-day kindergarten. But today, I will, for the first time, vote for it, even though for families who do not qualify for reduced rate lunches, they will have to pay, over $3,000 for their child to go to an extra half day of kindergarten. But I'm also greatly troubled by the fact that both Kelly and Amy have talked about, that there are ways of, I guess now, if this recommendation passes, that there are students who can somehow, by working with their principal or working with, to get it reduced or free. I was not aware of that, and in fact, I have a little bit of experience with that, because in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was treasurer of the basketball booster club at Worthington Kilbourne High School. And when I was treasurer, there were two boys who made the team, and it's a cut sport. They went through the tryouts and everything else. I was the treasurer at that time, at least. The treasurer collected the pay-to-play fees and the booster fees, the fees for the booster club. And both moms of each of the child said there's no way. They said when they had their kid try out, they had no idea it cost that much. They couldn't afford it, and they would remove their, they both said they would have to, individually, speaking to them individually, remove their child from the team. And I went first to the PTAs to see if they had money to provide for it, and no, the PTA said no. I went to the athletic director, I went to the principal, and frankly, I even came to the treasurer, and that was several treasurers ago. But the treasurer said, no, we got to follow what the board has approved. The board approved this pay-to-play fee, and I have no ability to waive it, and that's basically what the principals and athletic directors told me as well. And so essentially, I was able to talk the board into waiving the booster fee, so they didn't have to pay that. And I'm not here to brag or say anything else, but I just wrote a check for the two so they could play. It just struck me as very unfair for a couple of 14-year-old boys who had made, they were very good players. They made the team, and both their moms were telling me they wouldn't be able to play because of the cost. And I guess, to me, I think basketball is extremely important. All of our extracurricular activities are, but all-day kindergarten, I mean, the literature, the empirical studies are very clear, and I honestly believe that this may well reduce costs in the future, because we're talking about kids who are not coming from economically highly advantaged backgrounds if their families are eligible for a reduced rate lunch. And I think the possibility of all-day kindergarten may make them better readers, more ready, literacy ready, and math ready. And I would have, of course, this was long before Worthington had all-day kindergarten, but I would have never dreamed of not sending my kids to all-day kindergarten. because I knew what the benefits would be once they got to first grade and started reading. So I strongly support this recommendation, and although I would prefer free all-day kindergarten tuition for all our students, but I'm going to vote for it because this is, I'm also a big believer in half a loaf is better than no loaf. So that's where I'm from. Anybody other comment, discussion, rebuttal? All right, Mr. Cottrell, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Lloyd,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mrs. Best,
No,
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, now we have a board recommendation with respect to school board conferences, conventions, and workshops. And the recommended motion is to approve parking and ancillary expenses. I'm not sure what that is. Well, the motion is to approve parking and ancillary expenses up to $25 a day for board members and member-elects related to the attendance at the OSBA Capital Conference. I guess before having a discussion about it, we do need a motion. And
so
if you want-
moved.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this recommended motion. I'm troubled by the ancillary expenses, I
Yeah,
guess.
Charlie, can I speak to that?
Sure.
So, our staff, when they attend a conference, can be reimbursed for their parking cost or for a meal that they purchase while they're in that training. Our current policy does not allow us to reimburse board members for that. We think as an administration that our board members should be reimbursed for that, just like our staff is. So this didn't come from a board. This actually came from me when I said, how do I share with our new board members how they get reimbursed? And TJ said, they don't get reimbursed. And I said, that doesn't make sense to me. So that's where this comes from. So we would like that to be approved because we think that's a reasonable amount and follows how our staff would be treated for, say, in professional development.
Okay, I guess, well, anybody else want to say anything or else? I guess I'm still troubled by because I'm a firm believer that the board should not be out of pocket doing professional development. And I think professional development is very important and we shouldn't be out of pocket. Meals are a little, we've never been reimbursed for meals or even parking up to this point in time. My preference would be not to reimburse for meals, but definitely for parking. And we never reimburse for mileage either.
Yeah, I don't know realistically I think we can change the language. I don't disagree with that, but I will tell you, like for the OSBA conference, parking was $20 for the day.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's really any room there for anything else, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But I suppose you could strike the ancillary
Yes.
and just leave it with parking. But it sounds like that's what came from the same language you have, Dr. Bowers, for staff. So.
Yeah, I don't actually know on the ancillary language part. That was TJ's language that he put on this, so I can't speak to that. But again, it is capped at $25, so there's no, as you said, Amy, I don't see this growing to any sort of level that there would be concern about said expenses. I think those are reasonable expenses.
And I carpool.
Oh,
Yeah, so this really is looking forward as
Right.
well, but it was, as we're preparing to onboard and, it was going through, how do I explain this? And you realize it doesn't work like that. So we just think it should. But your call.
is there any desire to amend, to delete the ancillary or just leave it?
I think it's fine when the parking's $20. That's about it anyways.
And as I read this is only for this conference, not next year's conference or any other professional development. Might require a board, or we do this for every single session. I guess it could be for going to the future, it could be incorporated into, the board has always approved expenses or the actual
Okay.
registration fee. We've never been out of pocket on that.
We can add the parking
Add the parking, yeah, so,
as part of that approval. Yeah.
okay. So, okay, any other discussion of that? And, well, two things. I did check with TJ, so I'm relying on TJ, that it's totally lawful for the board to pay for members-elect, even though They're not members or they're not board members until January 1. That is permitted. Secondly, there's no cost to the district of any board member going to Capitol Conference because they have a flat rate. Once 5 people register, and we always have at least 5 administrators registering, it's free for the board or free. So there was no cost for boards elect, or members elect, I'm sorry, or board member elects to go to that. And also several years ago, I talked to Sarah Clark. She told me there's no ethics violation or conflict of interest for us to vote on these in public, whether it be the tuition for or registration for conferences. So there's obviously, since all 5 of us went, if we all had to disqualify, that's no problem. So there's no conflict of interest or ethics problem with or so I've been told, with our voting on this. And I just don't think we should be out of pocket. I'm not into paying for meals or mileage as such, which I know that's an out-of-pocket expense too. But gosh, so all right. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Cottrell, you call the roll.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lloyd?
Yes.
Motion passes. And then I suppose those of us who are so inclined, I fall in that category, submit to TJ our receipts for parking. Okay.
That's what he said in his email, yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. We now, board member comments, concerns, questions, requests.
I do.
Okay.
All right, you ready? Look, Jennifer, there's another typed piece of
Another
paper.
typed.
This is how I stay organized. So as Trey mentioned, and we discussed in a work session some time ago about an onboarding process. Congratulations, Stephanie and Amber. Process for our 2 new board members coming on. And so Trent and his team have graciously put together a format for that that will include some things. And it would actually include a 2-day session in December. And so that's December 13th and December 15th, beginning at 8:30, I believe, on both days. So or at 9 the next day. So Trent sent us that information and just looking to see how we as a board want to participate in that. And just my thought is going forward, Jennifer, Nikki, and I will be on the board with Amber and Stephanie. And so wanting to obviously be part of that conversation and participate in that onboarding process. I did offer to Trent that I could participate on December 13th. I have a Ed Foundation meeting that day, and so I will be available to participate during that session. I knew that Nikki was not going to be here, and so I asked her availability for that time period, and she will be able to make herself available on the morning of December 13th, and she is also available all day December 15th. And so I just wanted to have a brief discussion, as brief as we can be, about this, because I know it's kind of complicated. I know we all are excited about them coming on board, and I know that we all have valuable things to share. But as we go forward, starting in 2024, our board's going to look very different, right? And Nikki, Jennifer, and I are going to have to establish that relationship and create that culture with them and establish what our steps are going forward as a board. So, it's my suggestion that, we kind of take a little bit of priority, and then if you guys have availability and there's, space, obviously, you can see that each day, I would say, is broken up into 2 parts. And Jennifer can share what her availability is, and then if you, Charlie and Amy, want to participate, and this is not me dictating that, this is just a suggestion, it's something I'm offering to say that maybe would be a smooth process for their onboarding. So,
Thank you, Kelly, for working on this. Wednesday's not a great day for me, but you and Nikki are both available that day.
Yes.
Friday is good. I may have a work meeting, and I tried to pin them down to what time it would be because it'll be brief, but I would like to plan on half a day Friday. And if you two want to participate in the other half and want to know now, I'll take a guess on when I can do that, or I'll let you know.
I'm happy to be flexible with either of those dates and fill in if you need me, and if you don't, that's fine as well. So
Okay.
Yeah,
as of right now, that works.
I know.
As we know how schedules work.
I'm hoping
Right.
tomorrow to have an answer about
Right,
this.
but yeah,
board
I'm happy to
meeting.
be a backup if you need
Okay.
that.
and yeah, I too am willing to be a last minute substitution or whenever I'm available, all those times. But I'm willing to even be a last minute if somebody has to cancel out or you don't get your schedule. But I think between Amy and me, between the two of us, yeah, if we could try to work it out and,
Great, thank you.
okay.
I mean, I hope to email you tomorrow with what my
Okay.
schedule is.
Dr. Bowers, would you rather Jennifer email you directly or us email you directly, or do you have a preference of how to coordinate? And it's just, you're still taking the lead, right? Sorry, I asked you a question, then I interrupted you. I apologize. You have given us your schedule and it's your breakdown, and there's leadership that is taking those responsibilities. So, while we will have input, we're there to observe and share some input. But, your administrators are taking the lead because it's important for them, for Stephanie and Amber to get acclimated to how they operate. Okay, go.
Yeah, what I felt like I heard, Kelly, was that you and Nikki are both available on the 13th. I'm looking at a document. I'm going to pencil the two of you guys in on the 13th
Okay,
for that morning session. And then I will wait to hear from Jennifer on what she thinks her availability is on the 15th. And then reach back out to all five of you to see if people want to be involved in the slots that are open, or don't.
okay,
I mean, because for instance, when we design this, we're more than happy. Obviously, it's the board's onboarding to have board members involved, but it's not necessary that board members, from our perspective, are involved because, our team will go through the things that we need to. So, I don't want board members to feel like we have to fill every slot, but happy to have board members wherever board members want to participate.
so just, I'm available that entire day on the 13th. My feedback from Nikki is that she is available in the morning. I just want to clarify.
Okay. That's good. I'm
Also
just
said
going
that
to
it would
slot you for the day. And then Nikki
Selfishly
for
be
the
a
morning,
good
and
refresher for
then,
Kelly Davis.
yeah, you and Nikki both for the morning.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that
And
sound
we'll
good?
let you know soon on Friday.
Yeah, and I have, just for all board members, the document that I did share with you, we're just kind of updating it as we go, just so you know. So you'll see links that are in there now. Kelly added some information for that morning session. It is all flexible, meaning, it can all be moved around, but just we are going to keep updating it. So as we were sitting here today, I typed in there, need a date for state of the schools, need to explain commencement, expectations,
Yeah.
ordering of robes, some things that we didn't have in the, So,
Yeah, robe will probably need to be sooner than later.
yeah, that's so
Yes.
that, so anyway, those got added to this list while we were at the board meeting tonight there, so.
No worries. Thank you. I do really appreciate you putting this together. I appreciate your team being cooperative. They were tremendous when I met with them when I started, and I know that will be super valuable for them. So that's all I got.
Okay, just along on the same topic, because I've talked to board members all over the country about the issue of onboarding and actually / retreats, I guess. I have a couple of observations, comments, maybe I guess one suggestion even, but is that whether or not Amy and I, as the two outgoing members, are involved in the onboarding at all, in my opinion, is a decision not a vote necessarily, although the three of you can't get together and talk about it, but by you. So in my opinion, my suggestion is, I think both of us have some institutional memory. It would be helpful for the onboarding, but I honestly believe that if the three continuing folks would prefer not to have us involved, I certainly would, I think both of us would honor that. And secondly, I guess my view is whatever we do this time, again, I won't be on the board, shouldn't be a precedent 2 years from now if there are new board members coming on I think that board should decide how it best wants to do the onboarding, not say, well, this is the way we did it 2 years ago, so we're going to do it this way. The third one is kind of with respect to retreats. Many boards around the country actually do a retreat onboarding. Obviously, that won't happen before December 31st, which is, I mean, just from a scheduling standpoint. I would still suggest, I guess just a suggestion, I won't even be on the board, but that y'all do a retreat if possible. I do know that Upper Arlington did one, just which I was surprised. They did one right before the election, and then now they have new board members coming on. But also they had a new superintendent coming on. But I think a retreat can be very, very valuable. Everybody I've talked to said that team building, getting to know each other, especially at the time of two new board members on. So I guess that's my suggestion and recommendation. Actually, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm just talking to the two of you here who something to think about. But it is in my opinion, it's a pretty good best practice that's done at a lot of boards. And most states have open meetings laws, much like us. So they've got it's publicized, it's going to be open. But like up Arlington went to one of the state parks for I think three days or so. But that's not an uncommon thing for people, for districts like ours at least, to do, and just something to think about. But I'm clearly fine with what we're doing, and I still think the driving folks ought to be the three of you that are going to be working with the two board members, but I'm willing to help out however y'all want me to, or not help out if y'all don't want me to. So
I have already actually reached out to Dr. Bowers about a retreat. I didn't mention it this evening just because Nikki's not here. And, we anyways would need to plan something sooner than later. So you guys will probably be here when, hopefully I make that suggestion as well, because I do think that will be extremely valuable to have a retreat. Hopefully sometime in February, mark your calendars, February. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yep, I would. Anything else? Anybody else have any related or unrelated requests, concerns, questions?
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for being willing to work on the onboarding process. I think this is great. So the administration, my fellow board members, hopefully our new board members find it very helpful. So I do have a request though.
Okay.
So I saw that some of our teachers and staff at Thomas Worthington got to take a tour last week, I think. And I was wondering if there might be opportunity for the board to have a tour of Thomas in the next few weeks before the weather turns bad. So just throwing that request out there to see if there might be an opportunity for us to walk the site.
It's coming along.
So, yeah.
So we obviously can get you over there whenever. The question is whether we really want to organize that as a full board. And if we do we have to do some sort of public announcement or no?
Well, I'll defer to TJ, but as long as we don't talk about stuff, I mean, didn't we go over it for the construction?
For as long as
Yeah,
we don't
as long as we don't talk about
policy and decision.
I mean, again, from our seat, I don't think it's hard to, we probably is just. What's hard, to be honest, is your guys' schedules.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like if Amy said, hey, I want to go tour the building tomorrow, we can go tour the building tomorrow. It's hard to coordinate everybody for that,
Just
but
open
not that we
invitation.
can't do it, so.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. I mean,
know.
we can approach it that way too, if anybody's interested, just to reach out to, I don't know if you want us to reach out to Jeff Eblay to coordinate that, or to you.
Yeah, I mean, Randy or Jeff is perfect, and again, we'll take you any day you want to go. Or we can try to coordinate, I mean, we'll work on it. I mean, I'm speaking too much here. We'll figure it
I
out.
think realistically, you should just have an open invitation, like, reach out, and if you have time, I mean, if, you know, two of us can coordinate, then that would be great, but it is like challenging to try to organize even just the five of us. I get that.
It strikes, oh, go ahead.
Well, but I was gonna say, I mean, on that note, at any time as a board member, if you want to go see the construction project, let us know. Someone will get you a hard hat, and you certainly can do that. So, but we'll work on putting something together and doing an open invitation. So,
I guess my only thought was I don't want to impose on the administrators and other people 5 different sessions is my, or even the, I'd like to be a little more
well, again,
efficient than
like
that,
if
if
we're,
possible.
well, that's fair, but if we're walking through and we're talking about it, it doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna pull the Russilli director each time to do the tour, that kind of thing. But Amy is correct, our Thomas team on that November 7th Professional Development Day, they took some good tours. I think it was very beneficial for them to get to do that. They've obviously been watching it through the window, but feeling spaces is different than kind of seeing spaces, and so.
You can actually go into the space now?
Yeah, I mean, so in that,
Brenda.
what I would say the west end, which is gonna be the new weight room, you certainly can walk, pretty far into those areas, get a feel for what that space feels like. And we're building west to east, and so you're seeing that second floor is all up on that west side and moving towards that middle section. That one's gonna be fascinating over the next few weeks because that'll go to 3 stories. And that's when we're really gonna feel like the scope or the scale of this project. But all of the flooring is in, so we're actively into that masonry stage where it's going up, and feel good about that process. But it is a construction zone, so hard hats are definitely needed. But we'll get you over there. That makes sense.
Thanks, Amy. That's good.
Thank you.
Anything else? I forgot to put something in announcements or reports or whatnot. Last night, I went to the play, The Life of Abe Price or whatever at Beth Tikva, and the same play that was shown today at Thomas and at Worthington Kilbourne and yesterday at Phoenix, I believe. And if you get an opportunity, I would urge, it's only 45 minutes. The discussion afterwards was very good as well, but it was, I wish I'd announced it earlier, but it was excellent, and I would urge you to do it. It's a 45-minute one-act play, and they're doing it all over the country. It's amazing. It's really impactful. So, wanted to bring that. Okay. Oops, we're to calendar, and a couple of things about the calendar. First of all, the next meeting is at our regular time, Monday, November 27th at our regular time. We'll have the 5-year forecast. It'll be less than 2 weeks away, so whereas this was a long time, less than 2 weeks away. That will be my penultimate meeting, and then my final meeting, and Amy's final, I guess both Amy's and my penultimate meeting and the next meeting, and then the final meeting December 11th. And then the issue with respect to the January 8th meeting, which has zero impact on me or Amy, I think, unless I guess Amy wants to come, is that there might be a football game that might be of interest to some people. That's the national championship game. TJ seems to think that Michigan might be in it. I don't think there's any chance. Maybe if they get a court injunction, maybe they will be in it, but without a court injunction. Anyway, but also, I don't know how with the new start time, it might not even be that much of an issue. I think we did it on the night of the national championship, although I think Ohio State was in the national championship game, was it?
I don't think it was an issue last time because with the 6, you start the
Right.
organizational meeting at 6.
6 and the other 6.
The regular meeting's at 6:30. Typically, that's not a meeting that there's a lot of
No
presentation
presentation or
anything.
anything, just
So,
what we had to do.
Okay.
but I won't be in the
Right.
meeting.
I won't be worried about it, yeah.
You'll be at your own meeting.
Be here. Well,
Oh, and, okay.
You'll
Any
probably
other?
be being sworn in that night. No?
the week before.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Because they go
On the
for,
first?
it's first,
Switch to-
second, third. But it's on
January 1st, you're gonna be sworn in?
No, but it's on
They don't mess
Tuesday.
around.
on
do they?
Tuesday.
Don't mess around.
January 1st.
January 1st.
Get to
12:01 a.m. or p.m. or a.m. It'd be a.m. Yeah, 12:01 a.m. Well, one other announcement, I guess, is that this coming Monday at 7 o'clock at Worthington City Council, the state champion women's field hockey team will be honored there. And I think I got the
Yeah, Ann
email
Brown
from Ann
emailed.
Brown. Okay, yeah,
I
just
think
want to make
all
sure.
of us.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I did respond that I would plan to attend.
Oh, I didn't see an RSVP, but I do
So,
plan,
I
hope
don't
to
know.
attend.
Yeah. I just emailed Ann directly and
Okay.
just told her I plan to attend.
And then we're also going to honor them at the
Yeah,
November 27th.
so the city does a nice job, obviously, but we will ask them to be at our meeting on the 27th. Is that the 27th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is our next meeting, as we attempt to, obviously, we feel like we've recognized field hockey, but they keep winning championships,
Right.
keep getting to come back.
We'll keep recognizing them. Always fun.
All right, unless there's something else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded we adjourn. That's not a debatable motion, so I won't ask for questions or discussion. Mr. Cottrell, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes. Motion passes. We are adjourned.